Today I'm gonna talk about how to get the best out of your JPEG images. Hi there, I'm Peter Forsgard, an Olympus visionary and a professional photographer from Helsinki, Finland. And before we start talking about the JPEG images, please consider subscribing to my channel and hit that bell so you get notified when there is a new video online. Remember, I post 2 videos a week, usually on Tuesdays and on Fridays. And my channel is all about you getting to be a better photographer and of course about Olympus gear. But let's start talk about JPEGs. I mostly use RAW, but there might be some cases or some scenarios where you could use JPEG, for example. Let's say that you don't want to do anything in post, then JPEG is just fine for you. And of course, then if you want to share your images online immediately from your camera, then JPEG is also a very good option. But as I said, if you want to do post-processing and the image sharing is not that important right away, then RAW is always a better solution. And of course, you can do both. You can shoot RAW and JPEG at the same time. Do you ever use JPEGs? Please let me know in the comments down below. The first advice on how to use JPEG is that just use the out-of-the-box Olympus camera to get the best out of your JPEG images. It's quite simple as that actually. JPEGs that come out of Olympus cameras are really good, just the way they are. And no need to tweak. Of course, what you want to tweak are, of course, the other features like beep sounds and all that kind of stuff. And maybe the buttons and dials might be customized for you. But don't touch anything that has to do with the image quality. You will be fine with the out-of-the-box JPEG that Olympus can give you. And talking about the adjustments or features that you have changed in your camera, to get back to the original way that the camera was when you took it out of the box is just to reset everything. And as I said, the simple reason to use the factory defaults is that it can make a very, very good JPEG just out of the box. But of course, if you want to tweak them, then there is a second advice. Use the picture modes. And in Olympus cameras you have several options. There is the picture mode settings in the menu where you can turn them on and off. I usually only have on muted, normal, which cannot be turned off, and then I have the monotone. That's usually what I have on. But the other options are eye enhance, vivid, natural, muted, portrait, monotone, custom, e-portrait, underwater and color creator. And you can adjust the picture modes. You can adjust sharpness, contrast and saturation. And then there is gradation. And gradation will affect the curve on the image. It can make the shadows a bit lighter or it can make the highlights a bit brighter. Whatever you want. But on this one I would not use high key or low key really that much. Of course, if you want to use the high key to get the image brighter and get that high key look, you can use that. Or if you want to get a really dark image and the low key look, you can use the low key. But for everyday shooting I would use normal or auto. Auto is pretty handy. It can automatically reduce a bit of the contrast on the image and it will also add a bit more dynamic range if you use the auto. It will interpret the scene and adjust accordingly. So that's something to consider. And here you can see some images that are taken with the different picture modes. Which one you prefer on your image making. And the advice number 3, try the art modes. Usually I have all the art modes turned off except the grainy film. And sometimes I have used the soft focus, which is kind of a old-fashioned way of doing portraits. It gives this a soft and dreamy look and it looks good in some cases, but in most cases, well, you have to try it yourself and see how it looks. And the same goes with the grainy film. Yeah, that can make a so-called old-fashioned look. And then of course you have the sepia and all other pop art and whatever things there are. But those are something that you should try. And these art filters can be turned off if you want. You go to the picture mode settings and have a checkbox empty. You cannot choose that one. But if you want to choose it, then you have to turn it on from the picture mode settings. There's also a possibility to tweak these picture modes. And there are different picture modes has a bit different options to choose from. But go and check out and experiment, because as I always said on these videos, that photography should be fun and to experiment. that is a one case or one way of experimenting. So that in that sense, that could be a good option to use. And then we have the highlight and shadow curves that can be adjusted. And this is a very good way of tweaking the JPEG image, that you can press the FN2 button, and usually it's defaulted so that you get the highlight shadow first. With the back dial you can tweak the shadows, make it darker or make it lighter, and then with the front dial you can adjust the highlights. And if you want to adjust the midtones, then press info button in the back of the camera, and then you can tweak the midtones. But this actually is a very good way if you want to have some more dynamic range in your images. You might open up the shadows a bit, and then you might also make the whites a bit brighter if you want, or take the brighter part down for more dynamic range. And always remember, if you brighten the highlight, don't overdo it. You don't want the highlights to be blown out. Usually blown out highlights doesn't look that good. And if you want to keep details in the black, don't over darken the image either with the shadow adjustment. And you can also use this with the art filters. So you can actually make the grainy film even more contrasty with this tool. So that's also something to consider. And then there is the advice number 5. Use HDR. HDR means high dynamic range, and Olympus cameras have a dedicated button to that, but you can also access it from the menu system. And there are several different ways that you can do that. You have HDR1 and HDR2, and then you have all these different options that how many images the camera will take and how big is the difference between the two exposures. And you can do this both ways. You can have the individual images, and then you can have the camera to make one image out of those HDR shots or those different exposures. And actually I didn't explain what the HDR actually works. It works in contrasty situation where are deep darks, really dark areas in the image where you want to have some details. You use the HDR and the camera will take several images with different exposures and combine them in camera so that you can have a more dynamic range in your image. That is something that you should really try. It's a very interesting thing to do. You can also do this in post, but I think it's quite handy to do it in camera, because then you have the image done and you don't need to do anything in post. But you can if you want. Have you used HDR? Please let me know in the comments down below. And as usual, before the last tip, I will have a bonus tip in the end. So please sure to watch the whole video. There's some exciting stuff in the end. And tip number 6, or advice number 6. Use monotone picture mode for black and white images. There's a whole video about how to shoot black and white with your Olympus camera, so I'm not going to go deeply into that at all. The monotone can be found at the picture mode, so it's one of the picture modes, as I said. With that you can also use different black and white filters. But as I said, there's a whole video about that, and you can watch it by clicking the end screen. There will be an end screen that takes you to that video if you're interested in black and white. Then we have the bonus tip. Experiment with the color creator. And this is a bit tricky because this is actually quite well hidden into the menu system or the whole system of Olympus cameras. The way to access color creator is to push down the FN2 button and then turn the back wheel or the back dial, and then you will be able to choose the color creator. And when you have chosen that, and then you can press FN2 button and the color creator will be the first option that you have. With the back dial you can adjust the saturation or the vividness or the color intensity, and with the front wheel you can choose with the color or what the color is. And this way you can have a bit of a tone in your images, and that's sometimes it's really nice. I don't really use this actually at all, but the way I could use it is if I was shooting JPEG images, then having the image to be a bit on the warmer side could work. In that sense, that's a very good. And this is a bit different than what they have in Pen F, which has a more extensive color creator. But unfortunately, I don't have the Pen F, but maybe someday I will borrow one and show you how it works on that camera. Color creator is quite handy tool. And then also when I was starting to get into this color creator, first I couldn't find it at all. Then I all of a sudden realized that it's actually one of the picture modes. So you have to turn it on from the picture mode settings so that it shows up when you press the FN button and turn the back dial. If you cannot see it, then go check out that it's turned on in the picture mode settings. And another reason is that you can have desaturated colors on your images. like this one. Sometimes it looks really nice if you want to get a bit this old-fashioned look on your images. It might work really nicely. But remember, all the tweaking and using art filters, using curves and stuff will not save a really bad image. The base image or the image should be good without tweaking that much, but it can make an image a little bit better. So it's worth a try. And then this is the video about black and white photography, and the second one here is about how to get your images sharp. So thanks for watching and bye for now.